If I were to call Back 4 Blood something, it'd be the equivalent of that weird Italian statue that every pizzeria has. Back 4 Blood isn't a game as much as it is some weird, nameless being that appears every year under the possession of a new host. There was a Back 4 Blood before we were here, there will be a Back 4 Blood after we die. Back 4 Blood is a multiplayer shooter by the people who helped make Left 4 Dead, and it took us so long to get here because they were goofing off with Evolve for a decade. Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 are pretty old games now. This is back in the days where you could say Dark Side Phil into a room and you'd get, what? Instead of die. My first encounter with Left 4 Dead was at one of those little ID tech camps where you and a bunch of kids your age learned to make Flash video games. I remember having a good time in between the moments of the other kids loudly saying they'd rather be playing TF2, and when I was removed from that camp and as a consequence Left 4 Dead, I did always have Darkside Phil to keep the game in my heart. You might be wondering why I'm even talking about an open beta, and that's because I know I'm more than likely to never spend real money on the game. Plus, it's my birthday, so I get a freebie. That sounds mean and callous, but you also need to understand that we've all got finite time on this earth, and I think the average person can maybe handle 2 live service games at once. Sure, live service models have a lot of benefits. Back 4 Blood is a 4-player co-op shooter where you mow down zombies, but they aren't selling you a game, they are selling you a new part of your life. For some people, maybe that's what they want, but remember that few ever truly get you addicted, and the ones that do will end up being your undoing. However, there are levels of addiction. Is this an Apex Legends, or is it more of a Borderlands, where it's fun for a few months and then slowly your friends stop playing it? Most of the time, that's just up to how the company treats it and how public perception is, rather than some innate quality that can be discerned by playing. Overall, though, I'd say it's not a bad game, but it's certainly not engrossing. Fun to kill time, but I never sit around dreaming about it the same way that I dreamed about multiplayer in Call of Duty or Buffalo Wild Wings. It's generic in that way that generic things are, but I will award it 1 star for not doing the ironic eye-roll Borderlands thing. That annoying atmosphere where every character is just as happy to tell us the situation doesn't matter because the writers have already given up. There's a little bit of quirky in their shouts, but it's never enough for me to actually call it quirky. Which is very thankful, as 90% of the dialogue is, hey, you just fucking shot me. The goal of Back 4 Blood is to go through several levels and mow through an absurd amount of zombies. I know they're technically the ridden, but we know that in-game they all get the pronoun he. He's coming through the door. He's gonna explode. Jake, fucking shoot him. Most of the gameplay of Back 4 Blood is watching a horde of hims rush down a hallway and you and the team firing an ungodly amount of rounds while maintaining the slightest angle so that you don't hit any friendlies. Something my PlayStation made really difficult. Call me a plebe, but the auto-aim on console is so aggressive that I'm basically playing an entire game with Deadeye activated. But it really doesn't care who's in your vision cone. If you aim down the sights, it'll point you at a zombie, but it'll also put Jake in the way. Where it will make you aim is also a bit vague. Try to shoot at a boss and Evangelo will point his gun at the space between the monster's legs rather than his giant cysts. It's possible that a lot of this is subject to change in the, checks notes, 2 months between this beta and the release. Yeah, no, this is the game we're getting. The beta is basically just a server test plus some early feedback that you can fix easily. Though maybe if some god can hear me, can you please lower that trauma mechanic? It's very annoying. This is a mechanic in which certain attacks can actually drain your overall health meter, making healing items almost obsolete. The only way to really fix this is to run to one of the very rare health stations and hope that some fat cat hasn't drained its single free charge because, oh my god, is this real life? There's also a decent breadth for customization. Each party member has a deck of cards that they bring in. While at base camp you could throw a bunch of cards in a pile, at the start of each round, the party can pick 1 card from the deck to add to their hand. You can also increase the effects of certain cards by selecting that upgrade again. Also, every card stays in your inventory till the end of the run, no matter what happens. If the team is wiped, you'll still retain the power you bought the round before, though do be mindful that you only get 3 chances, and after that, it's back to the lobby. You'll also have to face the second plague in this universe, capitalism. During your adventures, there will be piles of copper hanging around. Grabbing it will distribute that wealth to the other party members, so you'll never have to be concerned about starving the members of your own class, though things like ammo and healing items are more personal pan size. Back 4 Blood runs off of acts, and because this is a beta, I only had access to 1 of them. Is that enough for a real guide? For me it is. Look, I'm a cartoon guy. If I didn't have bad opinions, I'd have none at all. The point is that each act is a connect the dots between safe rooms, and inside each safe room is a shop. Here you could spend your copper on randomized gear, be that on new guns, bombs, healing kits, or weapon attachments. Or, if you're a good little player, you'll refrain for a round so that you can buy the expensive team upgrades. These provide permanent buffs to everyone, but the best versions of these are the ones that upgrade the gear you can find around the map. If you're playing with friends, I suggest you sharpen your lawyer skills, as people are inherently greedy, and you need to convince them to share their wealth to the common cause of decent healthcare. Each character also, by their sheer inclusion, gives a buff to your team. Evangelo provides your team movement speed buffs, Holly gives everyone more stamina, Hoffman allows the team to carry more ammo, Mom throws everyone an extra life, Walker has a buff to everyone's health, and the other three are locked behind a wall and a crackhead screaming at the sun. I would offer the genuine criticism that the monster design is kind of bad. It's hard to tell what, by just looking, a special zombie might do. Be that spit acid, call a horde, kamikaze attack, pin you to the ground, or phone your mom. In fact, overall I'd say the visual design is D-. The cast you can play as are a nice group of diverse people, but the maps are the same burned out wastelands and the zombies are just spiky looking bad dudes. I will say that on a gameplay basis, level design is good. Each room provides a new challenge, be that the lines of sight you're given, the depth of verticality, or the bosses hidden around the corners. Like I just mentioned, there are also tons of special written that carry their own special ability, and a decent amount of them are hold you in place until someone helps you. It's a good mechanic in that it forces teamwork. If you get grabbed, someone needs to save you before all your health is drained, meaning that if you want to 1v1 these guys, you better be on your toes as one fuck up and you get the red silhouette of shame waiting for someone to double back and save you. Unless I'm your teammate, I'll pull you off a wall later, I'm not turning around. This translates nicely into my next topic, teamwork. I played this game in 3 different ways. First by myself, a second with a single other friend, and then with a 4-man death squad. Now, multiplayer titles get away with a lot because for the most part, gameplay is sort of there to float in the air while you and the fellas talk about dumb shit. Back 4 Blood is not a very demanding game, mentally speaking, and the gameplay has to compete with daring questions like if it's possible to jerk it while running on a treadmill. That is, until you get to the harder difficulties, which they are in fact harder. There, the topic will switch to, whose fault is this? Meaning the topic becomes about me because I think it's funny to alert hordes while no one is looking. Do not underestimate those difficulty settings. One configuration can be the difference between facing a few strong enemies near the end of the act and the first hallway spamming the enemies with giant fists. If you want to play this game solo, you can do that, but I'd see no reason to do so other than to grind experience and ensure that Jake is always 2 steps behind. Repetition is the name of the game here. Even once Back 4 Blood has 4 acts and episodes Gladio, Prompto, and Ignis, you're still going to be running through the same maps. Might as well discuss the proper stroke-to-speed ratio. In the opposite of teamwork, you could do the versus mode. The mode is a 4 versus 4, with one team taking control of the cleaners and the other being the ridden. The goal of the survivor team is to hold out as long as possible until they're killed. The amount of time they survive is then tallied and the sides are swapped. Now the people who were zombies are now survivors, and they have to kill the other team faster than the time limit they just set. It's fun, especially playing as zombies, but it's got some problems. The main one being that the penultimate strategy is just to funnel a bunch of barbed wire into one spot, aim your guns at that single doorway, and fire away. Sure, there's a circle of killer flies that PUBG is probably really wishing it patented right now, and that will force the survivor team out of their cover, but it will take 2 minutes to get to that point. And 2 minutes of spamming damage into one spot like the world's worst Reinhardt duel is gonna get old real fast. Like every other multiplayer game, you also need to roll the dice with your teammates. Nothing's gonna cause a wipe faster than your good-hearted friend running out to save the mute random with 0 self-preservation techniques. But like I said, this is good variety. Its drop-down menu let me see what all those pesky zombie types actually were, getting to use their powers and feel unique. Though I also really don't see this being a mode that survives optimization. We don't live in an era where people play games for fun as their primary goal anymore. No matter what it is, people will want to be the best, no matter how inconceivable the reward. The same way that Nazi zombies had pro players, even if that wasn't the point. And I get the hunch that this mode is going to get some major tweaking to save itself from unending boredom. See, Back 4 Blood has 2 paths in front of it. One leads to Overwatch, Rainbow Six, and Dead by Daylight. On the other, Predator, Hunting Grounds, World War Z, and Evolve. But to tell the truth, I see it getting at least halfway down the first one. There might be an inherent flaw in comparing those games, as the 3 pageant winners are die-hard PvP, while B4B is PvE. But I think this might be the first attempt to bridge the live service and co-op models. Plus, in a way, Left 4 Dead was kind of ahead of its time, but now this is sort of the preferred standard. Instead of making a game with a dozen sequels that you must then build from the ground up, you instead leave a base that you just always work on top of. Everyone gets to work in a much chiller environment, and you could keep charging money despite never really explaining the pricing model. That sounds bitter, but hey, art moves forward. We don't watch films in black and white anymore. So in my opinion, yeah, I think this game is probably a worthy investment if you still have the time, or want to ride the wave of new streamers that will get big off of it. I'm sure that Back 4 Blood is thrilled by the prospect of reaching the dizzying heights of having Predators play their game. Hell, it's already there in spirit. Though, one last big question, will I buy Back 4 Blood when it costs more than an hour in Moon stream? Let me grab my consultant. Huh? What's that? ACOG on a shotgun. Why do you like that there's an ACOG on a shotgun? It's a stupid idea. A caveman could tell you it's a stupid idea. Being weird is not gonna make people want to be your friend. Stop. You can't get sloppy toppy from a girl with pink hair. That doesn't exist yet!
I'll take